So what happens when one of the most powerful and well-known women on the planet decides to, essentially, start over? Well, that's the story of Melinda French Gates, and it's a journey that goes so far beyond the headlines and the philanthropy. It's really about the personal reinvention of a woman reclaiming her own voice.
Her upcoming memoir, The Next Day, kicks off with this line, and wow, it just perfectly captures her whole journey. It's about being in that in-between space, that quiet, kind of uncertain feeling after something big ends, but before you really know what's next. It's a feeling a lot of us can relate to, and it really defines her story.
To really get where she's going now, with this intense focus on empowering women and families, we have to trace the path that brought her here. And it's a path that was forged by some serious ambition, some really difficult choices, and a slow, steady return to an inner voice she learned to trust. So let's start at the very beginning.
Her story, and the incredible resilience that would end up defining it, really starts with this simple but super profound lesson she learned from her dad. It's a lesson about a small wave.
Can you just picture it? It's the 1970s, and a teenage girl is learning to code on one of the very first personal computers. That was Melinda French. Her dad, Ray, actually worked on the Apollo missions, and he brought that same spirit of, hey, anything is possible, right into their home. He told his daughters their potential was absolutely limitless, and even told Melinda that companies like IBM would be stupid not to hire you. I mean, that's not just praise, that's giving her permission to aim for the stars in a world that, let's be honest, wasn't really built for women in tech yet. So her father told her this one story that basically became her guiding principle for life. It's about a big wave, and it's totally terrified as it gets close to the shore, watching all the other waves just crash into nothing. But then a small wave next to it says, super calmly, "You are not a wave, you are part of the ocean." This idea that a seeming end is actually a transformation, a return to something bigger, that became the lens she would use to look at all of life's biggest challenges.
And she carried that resilience with her to her next big challenge, the very male-dominated tech world of the 1980s. And that's where she would face one of the most defining crossroads of her entire life.
And her rise at Microsoft? It was absolutely meteoric. She joined in '87 and just shot up the ranks to become general manager, leading the development of huge consumer products like the digital encyclopedia Encarta and the travel site Expedia. Then in 1994, she married the company's famous co-founder, Bill Gates. But just 2 years later, right as their first child was born, she made a choice that pretty much stunned the entire industry.
This was the fork in the road. I mean, on one path, you've got this trailblazing career as one of the most senior women in tech, a role model shaping the future. And on the other path, a really deep, personal desire to be a present, hands-on mom. At a time when the pressure and expectations were just immense, she chose to step away from Microsoft. It was a decision that would completely redirect her energy and her influence for decades. But stepping away from Microsoft wasn't some kind of retreat from the world. No, it was the launchpad for an incredibly ambitious new mission to change it on a scale that very few people could have ever imagined.
Okay, just look at this number. By 2022, she and Bill had personally put nearly $60 billion into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This wasn't just them writing checks, this was a complete overhaul of their lives, centered around tackling humanity's biggest, toughest problems. The sheer scale of it really reshaped the entire landscape of modern philanthropy. So for 24 years, she was the co-chair, a very public face of the foundation. And while it was a shared mission, her travels and her work on the ground started to steer her toward a specific passion. She saw firsthand that when you invest in women and girls, in their health, their education, their economic power, it creates this ripple effect that lifts up entire communities. And this became her signature issue, really shaping her voice as a global leader. But here's the thing. While she was out there building stronger foundations for people all around the world, the very foundation of her own life was quietly, slowly starting to erode. In her memoir, she describes this recurring nightmare she was having, and it's such a powerful metaphor for what was going on beneath the surface. She kept dreaming of this beautiful house, which was her marriage, but its foundation was being eaten away by these relentless ocean waves. Her subconscious was basically screaming an alarm that her conscious mind just wasn't ready to hear yet. And then, that alarm turned into a really clear voice. It was an intuition. She actually credits the nuns at her Catholic high school with helping her develop. This voice of quiet reflection. And it started to cut through all the noise of her incredibly public life. After all those years of partnership, that inner voice was insistent. Something was fundamentally wrong. That inner voice was the signal.
And it was soon amplified by what she calls disturbing revelations about her husband's conduct, actions she felt were a betrayal of their marriage and the values she held dear. So the path forward became clear, no matter how hard it was. She initiated a separation in February 2020, and then the divorce was announced to the world in May of 2021.
The end of her marriage also marked the beginning of her total financial independence. The $12.5 billion she received wasn't just a number in a settlement. It was the capital that would fund her next act. It was what would allow her to build a whole new philanthropic legacy, completely on her own terms.
So, with the resources to forge her own path, Melinda French Gates is now writing a brand new chapter. And it's a chapter defined by her name, her vision, and her singular, powerful focus.
Her work now is just laser-focused. Through Pivotal Ventures, which she actually founded way back in 2015, and her independent philanthropy, she's dedicating her vast resources to one main mission: advancing the power and influence of women. It's really the evolution of the work she always championed, but now she's pursuing it with her own undiluted vision.
And she is telling her own story. The Next Day is way more than just a memoir. It's being framed as a kind of roadmap for anyone who's navigating those in-between spaces. It's her offering up the hard-won wisdom she gained from going through this profound change, both personally and professionally, all in the public eye.
She closes her book with this beautiful, probing question from the poet David Whyte. It's the question that she's finally answered for herself, and it's the one she leaves for the rest of us. After the wave has crashed, after the foundation has crumbled, what new version of yourself is just waiting to grow?